Today we're going to be talking about what I hate about Jeet Gwindo and what I like about Jeet Gwindo. Let's get started. Hey guys, my name's Sean Elders and this is Pinnacle Combat Arts. Like, subscribe, comment down below, hit the bell so you can be notified every time we get a new video. Today we're going to be talking about what I do not like about Jeet Gwindo is the practitioners. A lot of the practitioners will bend and mold something to the way that they believe it to be. Even if it's outside the person that originally put it out, said, does, all that stuff. And so this is very controversial within the Jeet Gwindo community. But I'd like to talk about it because I've been doing it for a very long time. I've been a formal practitioner since 1993, and I loved it since I was a little kid and I could start reading. I would read it in the magazines about Bruce Lee and Danny Inosanto and all these other people that were heavily involved in the Jeet Gwindo process. I did a little mini documentary about it on my channel, which you can check out. It is about a process, and it's within that process there are guidelines of finding out that process. What is the process of Jeet Gwindo? The process of Jeet Gwindo is, wanted to update you guys and let you guys know that we have a Patreon account where you can donate and help our channel stay alive, keep going. We've been going at this for 4 years for free, sharing all kinds of free content with you guys to help keep our passion for this martial arts alive. I also have a little app where you can go on and you can put in, donate some money towards coffee. For me, I drink coffee every morning and I enjoy coffee. But any support you guys can give me, I appreciate that. Obviously, you liking and subscribing the channel is really wonderful. Thank you guys for the wonderful comments down below. They really do motivate me. I really do appreciate when you guys let me know how much you appreciate what I'm doing, because I've been doing this for a long time and I'm finally sharing this knowledge with you of martial arts and all that. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day and I'll see you in the next video. How am I able to adapt in combat? How am I able to express myself honestly through live motion? Okay, and that is really what it comes down to. What are the most effective movements that I can make in today's world, not 1965, today's world, to be efficient? And what context is that under? The context is the most important. Why? Because people will go, well, that doesn't work because it doesn't work in the UFC. Or that doesn't work because it doesn't work in point sparring, or whatever context you want to say, okay? But the context is this. UFC is a different world than, let's say, military combat zone, okay? When two people clash, it's different. The intent's different, the action's different. And these are important things that you need to keep in mind. So what does Jeet Gwindo help us to understand? It helps us to understand that there are different contexts. There is military combat. There is life and death combat. These are things that a lot of people have no understanding of it because they've never been through it. I have. I've been through some very nasty, violent altercations, nasty things where I almost didn't come out the other side. And I have scars to prove it. The important thing is that you need to understand is that pressure and intent play a role in what we should use at that moment in time. If you're in class and you're sparring with your buddy, okay, that's one thing. That helps develop certain skills, but it does not help develop all the skills. Just like going in the octagon and battling out develops certain types of skills, and it's a certain type of fight, but it is not a life and death fight. Why? Because those people have come into this zone, came into this space, and they both made a choice, and they also created rules to say, hey, I am not going to kill you. My attempt isn't to kill you. But when you're in a violent altercation where somebody breaks into your home, okay, and is trying to kill you, strangle you, stab you, shoot you, then that type of pressure, that type of intent changes. So the things that you have to do has to change. And that's why you'll see, for instance, You know, everybody says, okay, well, this style right here, it is the best. And it does the best in this context. Well, guess what? That same person, it may be a person that's a great fighter, but they end up in a separate type of context where it's a life and death situation. And guess what? They don't do too well because they have not trained for that. So that's why, for instance, military, they need to train in their type of environment with the type of pressure, the type of intent needed. And that's why they hire contracted people to come in and help them and develop those certain skills. Okay? And that's why they have a curriculum and they have things that are based on what they go through and not what. So that's important. If a boxer is going to go box, he's going to train in that context. If a UFC fighter is going to fight, he's going to fight in that context. Okay? But what happens when you have an instructor that has never been in a street fight, never been in any kind of altercation, and he's being taught stuff from his teacher down the line, hundreds of years of curriculum that were effective 100 years ago, not today. And so Bruce Lee, he was saying, hey guys, what you've been practicing, it's outdated. If you want to continue the tradition of it, great, that's beautiful. But if you want to be reality, you want to be accountable for what you're telling people when they come into your school, that you're going to teach them how to defend themselves. Well, guess what? You're teaching them things that are based on things that happened hundreds of years ago in many cases. So where do we fix that? We fix that based on battle games, battle testing, pressure testing. We fix that through certain types of sparring. One type of sparring is not going to do it. There are different types of sparring that you have to develop. There's certain types of battle games that you have to develop. If you look at the military, they have different exercises that help develop the attributes inside of that. Just like a football team, football players, they don't practice scrimmaging every single practice. They practice certain drills and exercises that help develop certain parts of that game. And so Gwindo, the purpose of Gwindo is to help you find out what works for you individually. And there's a process to that. In what Bruce Lee was doing at the time when he was alive was he was saying, okay, let me test this out. That's the first thing, okay? And so over time he goes, well, this thing from this style isn't working for me against this type of environment that's happening right now. So in other words, back then, boxing and wrestling, when you came to the United States, those were the two primary things, and that's what usually takes place. So you need to have your structure around boxing and wrestling. Now in today's world, it's even become more broader, okay? So you have to develop those skills based on that. So what is Jeet Kune Do, and what is my problem with Jeet Kune Do? My problem isn't with Jeet Kune Do. My problem is that there are a lot of people being taught these ideologies that aren't based on reality. They're based on tradition and based on a romance and almost like a relationship of ideologies about what somebody taught way back then, but didn't listen to what that person said, what Bruce Lee actually said, and what he was trying to convey to his students and to the public. The idea is that you must go through a process of learning the best of striking. So you have 4 ranges. You have kicking range, you have striking range, you have trapping range, and you have grappling range. Those are the 4 ranges of Jeet Kune Do, 4 ranges of fighting at all, unless you incorporate projectile weapons, throwing weapons, or any other outside accessory, okay, or situation, or multi-attackers. That's what I'm trying to get at, is you have to be able to, and so these 4 ranges, what things inside of those 4 ranges is most effective in today's situation, based on what today's, in what context does it apply to? That is what I'm trying to really get at today, is what is the context? And so when you're training, you need to look at what are the best things, what has worked the most, okay? What works the most for most people, okay? In what context? Street fighting, okay? Or boxing, or if you want to look at MMA, or you want to look at different situations, what are the things that have scored the most or done the best? Those are the things you would add in first. And then over time, when you get together with your training partners, when you get together in a class situation maybe, what are the things that work when you are being pressure tested inside of that? What works best for you? And my personal opinion is you should have 3 things that you do, okay? For instance, if you're in a jiu-jitsu situation and you're in a grappling situation and you get into this one position, what are the 3 things that you can do? And you just master those 3 things inside of that situation, okay? If you're in boxing and you slip this direction, what 3 things are you going to do that work for you inside sparring? Okay? What 3 things here? What 3 things there? Okay? What are the main things that you can go to every single time that is most successful? That's the whole point. The next point I'm trying to make is that not everything is going to work all the time. So it has to be tested and proven over time. And so what Jeet Gwindo is it's a development of, you have your basic foundation. In this case, when we're talking about Jeet Gwindo, we have what they call Jun Fan Gung Fu. That is the base of what you need to know. Boxing, kickboxing, basic trapping, okay? Clinch, takedowns, grappling on the ground, okay? And some of that, back then, he didn't have as much, okay? He didn't have the jiu-jitsu as much. He had some jiu-jitsu, and the jiu-jitsu he had was pretty good for back then, but you need to add more to it, okay? Does it mean you need to be a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu or Sambo or any of these other styles? No, you just find the best of those things and bring them into your repertoire and then practice them thousands and thousands and thousands of repetitions. So Jeet Gwindo is about that. It's also about having somebody that's experienced, that is a practitioner of Jeet Gwindo, coach you through when you're sparring, saying, hey, I see this third perspective. I want you to see it third perspective too. And what do you need to do different here? The timing, the stance, the structure, all the 12 staples that I talk about all the time on this channel, okay? So keep that in mind when you're developing your Jeet Gwindo. Your Jeet Gwindo is personal. You should not be trying to look like somebody else. You do not want to be cookie cuttered, okay? You are different. You are a different person. Everybody's different shapes, but also different personalities. Everybody is tall. Some people are tall. Some people are short. We all are different. And so we have to develop our own Jeet Gwindo. That's what the whole point of Jeet Gwindo is to develop your own fighting style. You have a staple. You have these certain things that everybody should practice. But after a certain point, once you get proficient at your kicking range, your punching range, your trapping range and clinch and grappling standing up, takedowns and grappling on the ground, when you get proficient in all those areas, then you start to develop your own personal thing. If you became a teacher, you wouldn't just teach what worked for you. You would teach them the spectrum of information that they need to be able to figure out and develop their style of fighting. And that is what Jeet Gwindo is. So my issue with Jeet Gwindo is that the practitioners have some practitioners will try to become dogmatic, and they will try to pigeon-tail everybody into this certain way of thinking, and you can't do that. So I hope this helps. I'll see you guys next time. The main issue is that there's confusion about what Jeet Gwindo is, okay? Jeet Gwindo is not a style or a system.
You see, actually, I do not teach, karate because I do not believe in styles anymore. I mean, I do not believe that there is such thing as like Chinese way of fighting or the Japanese way of fighting or whatever way of fighting, because unless human beings have 3 arms and 4 legs, we will have a different form of fighting. But basically, we have only 2 hands and 2 feet. So styles tends to not only separate man, because they have their own doctrines, and then the doctrine became the gospel truth, that you cannot change.
Jeet Gwindo is a series of principles, concepts, theories, and philosophy, okay? These are the things that hold together and help you find your own way of fighting. Bruce Lee, when he was a kid, he would go to these rooftop battles and see these masters of different kung fu styles, northern, southern style kung fu, Wing Chun, Chun-Li foot, and he started to formulate and realize that there were issues, even at an early age when he was a teenager. He started to see that the fights, he wouldn't see the people using the structure. For instance, if you're looking at Wing Chun, there would be these rooftop battles, and the Wing Chun guys would not maintain their structure during the battle. And so he started to see people go to the ground and go into different ranges that went outside of what they trained in. So Bruce Lee realized by watching these rooftop battles that there are 4 ranges of fighting: kicking range, punching range, trapping range, and grappling range, and clinch, which is part of the grappling range, standing up. He realized that at that moment in time that there needed to be changes. His mind started to be altered. He realized certain things when he would fight different people. He realized that there was holes in the different types of training when he would watch these different fighters fight each other. And so that was a very important part of his progression in realizing that he needed to change the way he fought to still be able to use some of the basic concepts of Wing Chun, for instance, but now he had to modify it because things were changing. People were fighting differently. When you look back at Bruce Lee's life and you look back at Bruce Lee's his timeline of his life, he's in Hong Kong. He's a kid. He starts training with, for instance, Yip Man. He trains with all these different people with Chun-Li foot and, praying mantis style, and he's trading, he's bartering with different instructors to learn different things. He boxes in high school. He does all these different things.
When Bruce arrived in the United States, he had the training in Wu-style Tai Chi. Sometimes in Hong Kong they call it Unga. And he had the course training in Western boxing. He had training in fencing from his brother. That's epee, that goes from toe to head. He had training, obviously, in Wing Chun. And the other area was the training he had received in they call it Buk Pai, or it's Tam Toi. He knew 12 sets in Tam Toi. And then believe he traded with a Choi Li Fat man. So those were the arts that Bruce brought into the United States. What Bruce did, as relayed to me, that he could never learn from the top man, because in those days, Kung Fu practitioners were quite prejudiced, and they didn't usually share the knowledge with other people from other styles. So what Bruce did, he knew that, so what he did would go to the second or the third or fourth man in the system and say, well, look at how would you like to learn Wing Chun? And I'll trade you my Wing Chun knowledge for your praying mantis. Let's say it's northern praying mantis. And that's what he did, because he knew that the head instructor wouldn't teach him. So he did that in Southern Mantis. Southern Mantis, I believe he trained straight with the man. But a lot of the styles that he trained in Chinese Kung Fu, the way he picked it up, he would exchange the knowledge of Wing Chun for different styles. And of course, it was between him and the person he traded with. So he usually picked the second or third or fourth or fifth man within the hierarchy or of the top 5 in each Kung Fu system.
He comes to America, meets students that are pretty much street brawlers, wrestlers, boxers. That kind of molds and changes thoughts. He gets into different fights and different altercations throughout the early part of his life as early adulthood, and goes from 1960 from doing a Junfan, Gung Fu, evolving and modifying Wing Chun and all the other things that he studied, having more experience. He comes to LA, meets Danny Inosanto, he meets all these different people. He performs in the International Karate Championship mid-1960s, and things start to change for him more. He meets more people, he evolves more, And he has students, he starts to name his new thing Gwindo.
To me, at least the way that when I teach it, all type of knowledge ultimately means self-knowledge.
He's exploring and he's having experiences that are constantly changing his mindset about what fighting is all about. And so by the time he has the LA school opens up, Danny Inosanto is running it, he has an understanding of what he's really trying to develop.
Jun Fan is the base system. It has curriculum in it. It has a definite pattern. Jeet Kune Do really is it stems off of Jun Fan Kung Fu. He wanted you to have the base in Jun Fan Kung. It can be taught, but you would be losing it if you started to standardize it, because everyone is individual. He knew the direction in which he wanted to do it purposely. He just knew the direction when he was creating this. And it was created for him. But Jun Fan Kung Fu, we have to learn how to take the system and make it for ourselves.
Jun Fan Kung Fu is the base system. Jun Fan Kung Fu is the kicking, the punching, the trapping, the grappling, okay? In Jeet Kune Do, the philosophy, things like economy of motion, efficiency, directness of your attack, simplicity, the JKD's 5 ways to attack, simple angulated attack, single direct attack, simple direct attack, for instance, attack by combination, progressive indirect attack, hand immobilizing attack or foot immobilizing attack, attack by combination, attack by draw. These 5 ways to attack are some of the, those are principles that he saw. These are the ways that you can fight when it comes to striking, when it comes to coming in. When we talk about principles, we talk about strong side forward, intercepting. Best defense is a strong offense, non-telegraphing, attack-based telegraphing cues. In other words, attack based on somebody showing their telegraphing cues, taking advantage of that. Stop hit, stop kick, simultaneously parrying and punching, single fluid motion, stance, always maintaining a center line based on your size, light on your feet, adaptive. Footwork is the key to adaptability. When we talk about trapping range, we talk about occupying center line, maintaining center line, attacking center line, constantly changing center line. Philosophy, be like water. In other words, you need to be able to adapt just like water does, okay? The next one's flow like water. That means that your movement needs to be fluid, not rigid and hard. Economy of motion, being able to do movements that make sense, okay? Economy of motion, movements that make sense. Everything corresponds and goes together with each other. Stop hit. From a distance, the opponent has to give the indication of preparing to attack. This facilitates an ability to intercept, stopping the attacker in middle of their attack. Deflect and parry, or parry and punch. The key to fighting is always being offensive, and so the parry and punch is a way to always be offensive while deflecting your opponent's attack. Blocking and countering is inefficient due to the inability to score enough strikes to keep your consistent pressure on your opponent, to overwhelm them and bring them to an unconsciousness or submission. Low kicks. It is important to note that in a violent altercation, based on the pressure your opponent gives you, will dictate the base and stance and what tools you will be able to apply in an attack. If your opponent is really trying to hurt you and it is not a tournament or competition, the pressure and intent plays a very important role in how and what tools you are going to use in the fight. Economy of motion plays a very important role in whether or not to use a low line kick or high line kick. If the pressure is strong, then low kicks can only be applied because the stability, quickness, and timing of the engagement itself. Since low-lying kicks are short but to the point, reducing distance a low kick must travel, which emphasizes the break stability of stance and pressure. If there is a break in distance, timing, and range, and the pressure, a high kick could be utilized as long as the range of the attack is non-telegraphing and is out of sight of the opponent's vision. If you are wanting to be rapid striking and hands and feet at the low line kicks are efficient in close quarter range and trapping. What is this whole purpose? What is the peak purpose of what Jeet Gwindo is? Jeet Gwindo is to help you find, after you've developed and trained in the Jun Fan, which is at that time was his best way of fighting, okay? The best way to kick, the best way to punch, the best way to deal with trapping range, the best way to go into grappling range. So that's like, that is the thing that is missing in this whole thing. People just say, well, I'm doing Jeet Gwindo, okay? The truth is that it's twofold, okay? You have a foundation, okay, which is the tools. You have the principles, concepts, theories, and philosophy that help develop that where? In live motion, which means sparring, fighting, contesting, battle testing. That means high pressure, testing it, okay? Where somebody's contesting what you're doing, not just sitting there and doing a punching series or sitting there and doing drills. You have to test out everything, okay? But you have to start somewhere. So Jun Fan Gung Fu is the fundamentals, the base, okay? This is how you punch. This is how you kick. This is how you grapple. This is how you trap. This is what happens when you get into clinch range. This is what so these are the things that you need to understand about Jeet Gwindo. When people say Jeet Gwindo, when I hear Jeet Gwindo, I don't think of the techniques, okay? I think of the philosophy, the theories, the principles that you're using. Split entry, those are principles. How to strike at the same time, how to intercept, how to change lines, how to center line theory, all these different things. That is the Jeet Gwindo, okay? Where it really comes in is in live motion. When you spar, when you fight, when you battle test, that's where Jeet Gwindo comes in. And you have a Jeet Gwindo instructor there going, all right, this is what this one aspect of it is being coached. That's what Bruce would do. He would coach people and say, oh, try this. It looks like you seem to have this a little bit better. You're able to do this movement. This seems like something that you're adopting. That's one aspect. The other aspect is that you are internally, you as an individual, Bruce Lee says, you don't fight like me, you fight like you, okay? And so when you're in live motion, you're gonna figure out what works best for you after you have a good amount of foundation and fundamentals down. How to punch, you need to know how to punch already. You need to know how to slip and duck and bob and weave, parry, kick, trap, grapple, standing up, grappling on the ground. You need to have those fundamentals first. I mean, a big amount of that. Obviously, you need to start sparring after you get some of those down, but it is a process. That process is a Jeet Gwindo process. Jeet Gwindo is simply learning how to express yourself in live motion, to express yourself inside sparring naturally.
Mm-hmm. So therefore, they're coming in to, and ask me to teach them not so much of how to defend themselves or how to do somebody in. Rather, they want to learn to express themselves through some movement, be it anger, be it determination, or whatsoever. So in other words, what I'm saying, therefore, is that he is paying me to show him in combative form the art of expressing the human body.
And this is a big thing, I think, that's misunderstood, because you have all these Jeet Gwindo practitioners, and they are all the same. They're all, they're all doing these same erratic movements, okay? That are, they just look the same. They're all doing the same stuff. Bruce Lee did not want us to all fight the same way. Bruce Lee wanted us to find for ourselves, okay, to find out what we truly are capable of, to find out what we could do. The launch pad is Jump Fan Gung Fu, okay? That's the launch pad. The idea is you find the most simple, direct, and efficient things. As time goes on, you have to evolve.
The Jeet Kune Do of Bruce Lee has the Jun Fan Gung Fu material in the beginning. And then from there, they're supposed to grow and expand. That is Jeet Kune Do, and it is different for every individual.
That's why Danny Inosanto, for instance, that's why he's incorporated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Shudo, Ketchum Cam, Valutu, all these different things he's incorporated into his ground game, for instance, because that was the thing that was lacking the most in Jun Fan Gung Fu. So as the time evolves, just like if you look at a heavyweight, you look at Muhammad Ali, and then you look at Mike Tyson, the evolution of boxing from the 1960s to the 1980s and 1990s has changed hugely. Well, guess what? The way you fight has to change. So those people that are stuck, okay, you got your basics, okay? Beginner, intermediate, advanced basics in Jun Fan Gung Fu. You need to learn that. You need to know how to box. You need to know how to kick. You need to know how to trap and grapple and clinch and ground game, takedowns, all that stuff. You need to know how to do that. As we've evolved, we have more stuff, even new stuff. But getting that foundation down is key, okay? Getting those foundations down are key. That's a key essential, because Jeet Kune Do rolls in when you're fighting in live motion. You're learning how to incorporate these ideas of, for instance, you strike before, during, or after. For instance, somebody attacks you. Intercepting, okay? Cutting the line, changing lines constantly, cadence, all the things that you read in books that other people have written usually, but it's based on some of their notes. For instance, Tao of Jeet Kune Do. Tao of Jeet Kune Do is just a bunch of his notes. Some of those things are outdated. Some of those things are still very, very prevalent and very, very important in today's world. So my point of this video is to help you understand, because I've been doing Jeet Kune Do since 1993, 94, okay? I've studied with several different people. I've studied Jun Fan Jeet Kune Do. I study Wing Chun. I want to understand. I study Savate, boxing, all the different things that you see incorporated. Now, my personal opinion, some people may have a different opinion, is that, I know for a fact that Bruce Lee incorporated, he started in the later part of his years, the last 3 years of his life, he was incorporating Muay Thai. He was incorporating a lot of other things that some people may say wasn't true. But I've seen the notes, okay? Danny Inosanto, he went over to Thailand when Bruce was filming over there, and he wrote notes down about what he liked about the Thai fighters. Bruce Lee had 8mm film of those Thai fighters. So there's a lot more things that were incorporated into Jun Fan Jeet Kune or Jun Fan Gung Fu that at the later part of his life that a lot of people do not know, because he was constantly evolving.
There's a camp that want to teach original Jeet Kune Do material as taught by Bruce Lee. But the point of what I want to say about that is the people that sometimes push that, they don't know the entire original material. And even if they did know the entire original material, to hold it in that time frame, and it's good. And the people should study what was taught at that time period and then expand upon it. If you don't expand upon it, you don't grow. People say, well, that's all I have to know is what Bruce Lee taught me in 1964 or 1967 or 1971 or 7. That's all I need. I've heard that before from many people. To do that is to go against the philosophy, against the concepts that Bruce Lee had and against his principles, because that's not what Bruce Lee is all about.
He was constantly trying to find what works best, okay? That is the idea of what Jeet Kune Do, that's the biggest philosophy. What works best in live motion? And guess what? People are not fighting the same as they did in the 1960s. He was going against guys that were doing blocks, okay? So that's where these type of traps would work. Now he started to realize, oh, now I'm going against a boxer, so I can still do traps, but they're gonna be modified because it's not working against a boxer. So I could maybe trap something real quick, but it's not gonna be this heavily evolved thing because people aren't holding their hands inside this box all the time. They are sometimes. But the idea is that you go into clinch. He goes, oh, the Muay Thai clinch. You got the elbows and the, you know, in the Burmese, you got the headbutts and the knees and the eye gouging and all that stuff like that. You need to understand that there's an evolution. There's constantly, every 5 years, there's a change in the way people fight. I mean, all you have to do is go into Joe Rogan's videos, or you go into, you know, and you go watch jujitsu. Jujitsu's evolving every 5 years. Boxing's evolving every 5 years. All these different fighting arts are evolving. Jeet Kune Do is just helping you to help you be the best you can be in the fight. You use the principles that are in Jeet Kune Do to help you be a better fighter. Okay, that's all Bruce was trying to do. People are indoctrinating too much about what Jeet Kune Do is and what it is not. And what we have to do is we have to truly understand what Jeet Kune Do. It is not a style or a system, because if it became a style or a system, it would not be able to evolve with the time.
But if you do not have styles, if you just say, well, here I am, you know, as a human being, how can I express myself totally and completely? Now, that way, you won't create a style, because style is a crystallization, you know? I mean, that way, it's a process of continuing growth.
We're gonna be fighting different for 100 years from now. Everything's gonna change. Everything changes every 5 years. So you have to have this understanding up front. People that get stuck, they get stuck on indoctrinations and you know, Bruce hated that stuff, written in stone, you know, it's there, it's forever. No, you have to evolve with the times. It's just like a computer programmer, software designer, you know, somebody that is working in marketing, for instance. They're constantly having to evolve because every year, every 2 years, everything is changing so much. Google algorithms are changing constantly so much. And Bruce Lee knew this and he understood this. And so that's why he said, Jeet Kune Do is not a style or a system. It is a way to find out how to truly express yourself in live motion, how to fight, how to evolve, and constantly keep your eye on the target. Keep your eye on the prize. The prize is that you're able to adapt in live motion. Final thoughts. It is important to remember that Jun Fan's base system is just a starting point, but Bruce Lee never thought to have a fixed framework or style or system. Remember, as time changes, the way we fight changes. So therefore, the curriculum must evolve with those changes. Jeet Kune Do's main focus is to evolve learning adaptation inside of live motion through self-expression. I hope that you walk away with this in a positive light. Please don't get mad at me about what I have to say because if somebody's taught you something. Instead, think about what I'm saying. Come into it, in other words, with an empty slate and take it in. If it doesn't work for you and you want to stay dogmatic and indoctrinated by what you've been taught by your teachers or what you've read or, you know, by some authority, go right ahead. But only thing that's going to be stopped is your progression. And progression, you have to progress. You cannot get stuck and stagnant in the 1960s. You have to constantly be changing and evolving. And so that's why we have to keep our eye on the prize. That's what Bruce Lee wanted us to do, is stay focused on what was important. And what is important is to be able to adapt in live motion. And if you think you're gonna fight somebody from the 1960s, think again. People fight differently now. That means that you've got to fight differently, and you've got to take this on in a different perspective, in a different light. Go to our website, pinnaclecombatarts.com. There you will find more information about our online courses and how to get started today.